Welcome in or welcome back to my channel, Hearing Spirit. So today's reading is for the total solar eclipse and new moon in True Sky Leo. So the solar eclipse and the new moon in True Sky Leo has core themes around releasing pride, stopping the need for constant external applause, and resetting your core creative identity. So Leo is a very creative sign, and so obviously their negative aspects of Leo can be around pride and also needing that external applause. So the positive sides are more around that core creative identity. So it's really about letting go of the negative and encouraging the positive here with the Leo energies for this. And it is the South Node that is connected to this new moon. And also involved is the fixed star Regulus, which is the heart of the lion. And we do currently have the North Node conjoining Regulus. It's quite a significant, not the North Node, the South Node currently conjoining Regulus. It's quite a significant transit because the fixed star has such a strong history. So Regulus is known as the heart of the lion, and it does have quite a history even within Abrahamic faiths as well, and it's a very prominent star. It touches the soul at the intersection of destiny and choice, offering the native a royal path that is paved with immense opportunity and also the looming shadow of a potential fall from grace. And because it's also the South Node that is conjoining it at the moment, which is about past energies, it's the tail of the serpent, and often it links to the past and even potentially past lives. So there is that energy connected here at the moment. So Regulus functions as a high-stake amplifier of personal agency. It does not suggest success merely, but actually also demands a legacy. So it's very much linked with the archetype of the sovereign, the part of the psyche that seeks to rule its own reality with dignity and courage. However, it does have the dual nature associated with the heart of the lion energy. So it's the bravery to lead and monitoring the native's integrity, but also there is the power that if you use this energy for petty revenge or narcissistic gain, it can actually turn into a swift and public decline. So you have to be quite careful with this energy, and it's very much linked to public soul level authority. So the conjunction is not that close to Regulus. It is involved. It's about 5 degrees or so here, and it's even looking like, so the South Node is very much conjoined Regulus, but the actual eclipse is not that close. So it's actually about 10 or so degrees from the South Node, which I do find interesting as well. So it may not be as powerful with that. However, because it is a eclipse and the South Node is right on Regulus, it's definitely, energy is there. So I have already shuffled the decks and cleansed the space, and the decks have changed for the solar transit through the sign of True Sky Leo. So the decks I've chosen have a bit more of a, I guess you would say kingly or royal energy, but often even just a golden or solar reference to the decks as well. And I even chose the past life oracle cards as well because of the, at the moment, the South Node being conjoined to in Leo. Yeah, so in general, the Leo energies at the moment are really connected to past lives and things like that, past energies. So on the bottom of the first deck, which is actually the Arthurian Tarot, we have Stone 3. So Stone 3 has a standing stone near ploughed fields and the distant hills as a chalk figure. The smith was honoured above all men by the Celtic peoples. As well as a craftsman, he was a magician. So that's interesting. That's even, they had a god, the Celts had their smithery god as well, which was Wayland, and some even called him Wayland the Smithy, I believe. So the meaning of this card is construction, craftsmanship, professional mastery, practical skills, creative instinct, good organization, and skill that brings honor and reward. So that is a really interesting shadow energy for this reading, because it's all about bringing out those positive Leo skills, which is a very creative energy. And here the Stone 3 is similarly, it's a little bit linked to your, say, 3 of Pentacles energy. So that's the shadow energy of the deck for this eclipse, solar eclipse for August. The first card we have here, though, is Sword 2. So this would be like your 2 of Swords. But in this deck, it actually speaks of the Battle of Camlann. So it's supposedly the last battle within the Arthurian legends. It represents the armies of Arthur and Mordred, that they drew up a truce. An adder is moving in the grass, causing a man to draw his sword to slay it, and so the battle was provoked. That's fascinating with the adder reference, because once again, the Vedics say that this solar eclipse and new moon is in true sky, not true sky, is in Vedic Cancer and in the nakshatra of Ashleisha, which is the serpent or the naga. So there we have a serpent reference here as the first card for the reading. So the meanings are amnesty or temporary peace, indecision, compromise, suspension of deeply held beliefs or opinions, hesitation, analysis of the situation is required before action. So that's an interesting energy to start with as well. And then our crowning card is Talisman. So our crowning card is Talisman. So Talisman here actually is sitting with 2 children as he tells the initiatory story of transformation, and they are sitting here listening intently. The golden links of tradition pass from his hands into theirs. Wow, that really does make me think of that Leo and even the Regulus, but definitely the fact that it talks about tradition and the passing on of tradition into the new future and the new generations ahead, which is very much what Regulus is linked with. And then the fact that it's these golden threads, which once again is that Leo type of energy with the gold. So the legend of the transformations of Gwion Bach into the poet Taliesin is told in the Hans Taliesin, or Haynes could be, sorry. We read how Gwion was sent to tend the magical cauldron of Ceridwen. that's fascinating too because of the alignments at the moment. There really is like a cauldron alignment with the planets at the moment as well, which we've talked about in other readings. The cauldron of inspiration was intended for the drinking of Afagdu, Caradwin's son, who was so ill-favored that his mother wished to compensate for his lack of natural beauty by the gift of wisdom. However, young Gwyon's fingers were splashed with liquid from the cauldron, and to cool them, he thrust them into his mouth, and so acquired the cauldron's wisdom for himself. Realizing his own danger through his new one omniscience, Gwion transformed himself into a hare, but Caradwin pursued in the form of a hound. He changed into a fish and she into an otter. He changed into a bird and she into a hawk. Lastly, he became a grain of wheat, and she scrabbled him up in her crop as the hen. He was reborn of her womb 9 months later as the infant Taliesin. So the story is a parable of bardic initiation in which the young poet establishes his essential links with the other world, in which all levels of reality and wisdom are available, by means of his totemic associations with the different birds, beasts, and fish, each of whom represent a level of knowledge. The poet is able to participate simultaneously in every part of creation in an omniscient way. He knows what has happened in the deep past and what will happen in the times to come. Although Taliesin is primarily chief bard to Elphin in this legend, he is associated closely with Arthur in other texts. According to the 9th century poem Prydw Annwn, Taliesin accompanies Arthur on his quest to Annwn, while in Geoffrey of Monmouth's Vita Merlini, Taliesin helps Merlin to bear Arthur to Avalon to be healed by the goddess Morgan. So yeah, there is a great repository of lore found within the writings of the Book of Taliesin. It takes the form of intricate gnomic poetry packed with references to myth, legend, and magic. The lists of I have beens in the poet refers to events throughout history at which he was present, reflecting a mystical understanding of creation seldom found elsewhere. So Taliesin is the guardian of tradition. By means of his insights, he's able to impart wisdom by means of song and story so that the youngest child can hear and understand. It is by such means that the mythic impact of the Arthurian powers has been transmitted to our own century, for the living links of tradition pass into our keeping. While there will always be special guardians, traditional lore is embodied by the people who tell and listen to the stories. So those who seek earnestly and sincerely for wisdom will encounter Taliesin, who, through his real dwelling place is the region of the summer stars, is nevertheless ready to aid the seeker and help him or her to contact the living world of the other world. So he is the guardian of tradition. By song and story, prophecy and far memory, he can instruct and guide the seeker, is an interpreter as well as a teacher, well able to represent images to the receptive mind and forge connections in the waiting heart. There we have the heart connection as well. So he's linked with tradition, revelation, inspiration, insight, preservation of heritage, initiation, advice or counsel, transformation of the mundane into the spiritual. So wow, what a potent card for the crowning card for this reading. I just shuffle the decks mostly, so it's very resonant with the current energies. It's beautiful as this crowning card here. So I guess to take away from that is really what traditions and stories are you either learning or passing on or, interested in. I think that those of our ancestors are important to learn. And because obviously there's so many different people in the world, if every if all the peoples kept their own stories and traditions, we could learn from each other. The next card at the top here is Grail 3. So Grail 3 is an apple orchard with a harvest fair table. And it's very much linked to Arthur and his men. And its meaning is of abundance, solace, fulfillment, fortunate conclusion, the power to communicate joy and gladness and generosity of spirit. So this is like your 3 of Cups type of energy here. The next card that we have here is the Grail Hermit. So the Grail Hermit represents the keeper and transmitter of esoteric lore. Neither druid nor priest, as hermit, he mediates the functions of both. His book is opened to all who go on quests. It warns them of the dangers and terrors which await them, but it also comforts and sustains those who lose their way on the path of spiritual renewal. His dove goes on before to guide seekers, while his staff steadies their failing steps. So his energies are around guidance, spiritual truth, illumination, wisdom, counsel, especially from an older or wiser person, introspection, a necessary space for reassessment, inner companionship, maturity, the voice of conscience or one's guardian, angel or spirit. Wow, and how interesting that he is next to our central card as well. So he's like a guardian here. And our central card is Spear 2. So on Spear 2, it's around the meaning is around Geraint pursues the knight who insulted Guinevere. To avenge her, he enters the Sparrowhawk contest, in which he overcomes the knight and wins the game. So the meaning is around choice, control, mastery, the skilled organization of resources that leads to achievement of desire, intuitive synthesis, and dynamic drive. So this is the central energies here. And to me, that is very much about, creativity as well by him, doing that. It's very creative. And then the next card, which is in the reverse, but this deck doesn't read in reverse. But I like to leave it there just to remind myself that it did come out that way. So maybe some of these energies might be a bit harder to achieve, or, something to focus on as well. So Stone 8 next to our crowning card. So it's a stonemason's yard at sunset with a nearly completed stone carving awaiting its mason's chisel. Before becoming a knight, every neophyte underwent a rigorous period of training. Those who went on the quest, like Percival, sometimes required additional training before they were fully shipped for the task. So the meanings are around prudence, patient application, discriminating service to the craft, better results through gaining professional skills, apprenticeship, methodical work, and detailed preparation. So this is like your 8 of Pentacles kind of energy. But like I said, because it came out in reversed, it may be really quite significant for you to hear that there, some of those energies aren't quite right there. So then the next card that we have here on the bottom row. So these bottom cards are to do with your lower chakras. So, the base, the sacral and the solar plexus. And we have here, sorry, I'm not sure you can really see them that well. Arthur, who in this tarot is equivalent to your Emperor card. So far we've had the Hermit for the major arcana. Talisman was equivalent to the Hierophant, and then now we have the Emperor. So quite masculine types of cards with the major arcana here for this reading, which is interesting, due to Leo also being a masculine sign, so that is interesting. So Arthur obviously is a very important figure in that British Celtic pantheon, you could say. So he is the medieval king, and some say the champion of Christendom, but also the Dark Age battle lord, the Romano-British chieftain or Celtic god hero. So he has kind of two different identities. The Arthur of the Hallowquest deck is a mixture of all three. So, yes, interesting. And here his role is as a guardian and defense of the land, which beautifully, with the whole what we have going on currently with leaders and lands and things like that. Traditionally, that's what kings and rulers were kind of connected to, was the land, you know, the ancient connection. But these days it doesn't really seem that way. And this role takes us into the realm of mythic reality, where the historical 6th century battle leader is subsumed in a welter of divine and heroic traditions. As William Blake wrote, the stories of Arthur are the acts of Albion, and that the legends surrounding him, for around Arthur constellate a greater power of the Arthurian world. For being a lone figure, he gathers about him an actual as well as withdrawn court, in which knights, ladies, heroes, gods, and goddesses are numbered. The great panoply of archetypes is not immediately apparent from the cursory reading of medieval Arthurian romances, whose complex enlancements cross and recross the original traditional confusingly. In the later romances, Arthur is a figurehead based squarely upon the model of Christian kingship. He no longer engages in adventures in his own right. These are now performed by the knights of his court, and he is represented by numerous champions, chief of which is Gawain. Turning to the earlier stories, we find that Arthur leads with his army into the underworld of Anwen. He rescues Guinevere from her fairy abductor. He encounters the goddess of sovereignty and takes the empowerment of the Hallows. He's an active, initiating leader whose care is for his people and the land. So the divine and heroic elements within his role are amplified by tradition. Whenever he attempts to depart from his kingly responsibilities within the legends, or to live a life of his own, he comes to grief. Wow, that is similar to that Regulus energy we were talking about. When he fulfills the duties of the king, he is given the support and assistance of the goddess of sovereignty. She is the foster mother who instructs him in wisdom. She brings him to the kingship, provides him with a wife, and eventually receives him to her again in the Isle of Avalon, from whence prophecy says he will come again to defend the land once more. So this is like an old, British Celtic, stories, but very very resonant with the current eclipse, especially with the Regulus energy, because even the sovereignty is very much linked to Leo as well. And here we have the goddess of sovereignty. So the archetypal meaning is Arthur is the emperor of Logos, the Pendragon. He draws together the resources of his land and welds them into a kingdom full of strength and vitality. His creative energy is fueled by close otherworld contact through the mediation of sovereignty. He is represented by leadership, authoritative energy, the welding of power for the good of all, willpower, organization, courage, responsible love, fatherhood, and dynamism. Wow. And here we have him connected with that spear 2 and the grail. And then the next card that we have, which is our base of the matter for this reading, is the spear queen. So the spear queen here offers her spear kneeling in front of a number of grave mounds. The spear drips with blood. The lady of the fountain's husband is killed by Owain in a magical contest of arms. Afterwards, Owain marries the lady with Lunet's encouragement and help, and so the lady's lands are held against her enemies once more. But before she can be persuaded to take Owain, she mourns her husband grievously. She's deeply attuned to the needs of the land and has suffered in its service. Her grief is well hidden, and she is generous and friendly to all. She imparts a deep commitment to the healing of the earth. Wow, this is really making me think about all the current kind of, war of the sexes that, I mean, I guess it's been going on forever, but in the modern day, it's definitely seems to be apparent as well. And it is true that, both genders need each other. Like, I do think there is a sacred partnership between male and female that, is connected to the divine as well here. And then the last card we have is Stone 4. So beneath a striated hill, a giant treasure including a gaming board is revealed. The 13 treasures of Britain are those empowering objects of the land. Whoever holds them is ruler of the land, and hence many of the hallows descend into modern usage as the regalia of the monarch. The meanings around this card are earthly power, conscientious ambition, material gain, possessiveness, selfishness, spiritual miserliness, and time to be generous with others. Yeah, so this is like your 4 of Pentacles card, which, yeah, okay, so that is definitely interesting. So to me, it is sounding like there is some unbalance, which I think a lot of us can sense within the land and with the leaders and with, the non-leaders, with the people, with the folk. There are problems there. So the next deck that I do have for you is the Tarot of the Golden Wheel. And on the bottom of the deck, we have the 6 of Swords. So this is to clarify that Stone 3 card, which is that 3 of Pentacles energy, which was that very creative, about, it was linked to the blacksmith in that card, but about, mastering something and really working hard on things. And the 6 of Swords is more about having been through hard times. You're actually now have passed through those times, and you're now in a much calmer place. So that is a positive message to clarify that 3 of Stones. However, that is the shadow energy of the deck for the month. But it could be suggesting that, it's a bit of a period of rest at the moment, that, a lot of hard work has been done, and you're in a calmer place. So to clarify the 2 of Swords, our first card, we now have the Ace of Wands. So here I am seeing a lot of passion, which is interesting because we do have that sun traveling through True Sky Leo, which is a fire sign, a very passionate sign. And we also have the new moon in Leo. So once again, you know, it's both sun and the moon there in the fire sign. So very powerful on the fire end of things. And the Two of Swords was all about decision making. So you may even find that you may feel quite passionate about these decisions that need to be made. You may have a lot of energy to put into this decision making, and you might even find that these decisions are really linked to your passions, and that they may even stir up a lot of passion as well. And then interestingly, again, we have the Three of Wands, so another fire card. This, however, is to clarify that Taliesin, and he was that, you know, authoritative figure passing on the wisdom down the generations, and, you know, equivalent to, say, your Hierophant type of energies. And they're here having the Three of Wands does suggest that this is a time of expansion and potentially even travel. So it can even suggest travel to foreign lands. So it is interesting, because I was picking up on earlier about how, you know, if all the cultures kept their stories and told them and kept them safe, that we could kind of learn from each other. And I do feel like this energy does resonate on that level as well, because obviously the three is really expansive and it does include other cultures and potentially travel. And I mean, obviously with the internet now, we can really send things out, you know, all over the globe and share, you know, our stories and things that we want to share. So that's quite interesting there as well. The Three of Wands for with the Hierophant energy, very expansive and very positive. So if you can do that, you know, I'm not saying you have to start a channel and do that, but just in that sense of even looking for things that, you know, what are the things that you have passed down through your family or have been passed on to you, or what are the things you want to pass on as well, you know. Then for the Grail 3, which was that kind of Three of Cups kind of energy, we have the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is a bit of a tricky card. It does suggest that there's some kind of trickery or deceit going on here. So in this card, he's hiding the swords from that army so that they, you know, can't really attack him. So it's a kind of self-defensive move though. But it is, you know, he still is stealing, and he's tricking them by taking their weapons. So the Grail 3 is more to do with, you know, celebrations and things like that. But yeah, here, this one's, taking things. So maybe this is what is to be celebrated, is that, you know, there's some kind of disarmament occurring that, you know, needs to happen. It's maybe not, it doesn't seem very honest, like there's a dishonesty attached to it here, but there's a like disarmament here going on for some kind of greater good, and there is a celebration around it here as well. So wow, really intense energies for those cards. Then for the Grail Hermit, which was all about you know, the knowledge keeper as well, but the Grail the Grail is a very sacred the Grail is a sacred item, but it's also a quest as well. And the Hermit, he was kind of containing that knowledge, a little bit like Taliesin, but Taliesin was more passing it on. The Grail does pass it on too. I mean, the Hermit does pass it on too. But yeah, it's more about really slowing down and going within to look for the answers within. But here we have the Tower with it, which, I mean, we do have, so Uranus is linked to the Tower card, and we do currently have Uranus in True Sky Taurus. And the Hermit card is generally linked to Virgo. And at the moment, Venus is in Virgo and it is trining Uranus in Taurus. So maybe this is some of this energy coming in here. So the Tower generally represents some kind of upheaval, like a catalytic kind of energy, some kind of revolutionary change, massive change. And it's very sudden and very abrupt. But yeah, this is on like a spiritual level as well. So it's quite a powerful combination, but I do see it resonating well with, like I said, the Venus and Virgo and the Uranus and Taurus trining at the moment, which is quite a positive trine. I mean, I guess you could say that Venus and Virgo is more about keeping order, keeping things organized and things like that, and the enjoyment of that. And then that Uranus in Taurus is, to me, I always think of the kind of upheaval of the financial system with that Uranus in Taurus energy. But I also do notice that, for example, with technology, so Uranus is linked with technology, and then Taurus is linked with also like art and even music and things like that. And now with AI, it's almost giving back, even though if you're a fully trained artist or musician or something like that, I can see that there would be challenging aspects with AI for sure. But for the general populace that doesn't have either the time or the money or whatever to actually learn these skills, but would like to use them for their own use, like art or music or things like this, you know, it kind of is a bit empowering as well for, you know, at large, humanity at large. So the artists and the musicians and people that are in these parts of our society, and I'm not trying to insult anyone or denigrate anyone, but generally they do come from privilege and wealth, or some kind of privilege and wealth, to be able to pursue these things as a career or, you know, life path. So it's, as much as I really do love art and I have a lot of respect for artists and musicians, the average person who may have, you know, thousands of amazing ideas, you know, may not have been able to really express them. And then I also understand too, so I'm not trying to be totally pro AI, because I also do understand also that there is these AI data centers are also having environmental impacts. So supposedly they use a lot of water, which already there's a lot of people that don't have enough water or access to clean water. And also currently they are buying up all the old books and they are destroying them so that these AIs can read them and study them and add their knowledge to their database. So it is interesting. And thinking about it with those aspects even, it is kind of making me think of that grand trine. So that Uranus in Taurus with the technology, with the like money and even the environment. So the earth signs are very much tied in with the environment and the earth. And also we have Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, especially Neptune is involved with this as well. There's a sextile between Neptune and Pluto and Uranus, and then also an opposition with Venus. So like I said, with the water and the waters being used for these AI data centers, and then the books being destroyed. So that's really making me think of that Virgo energy. And in that sense, because Virgo is in Venus's detriment, so it's not a great place for Venus to be, even though it seems great, mostly because of those energies of, to me anyway, excuse me, of like cleanliness and organized, being organized. And you know, Virgo has good intellectual capabilities, so you would think that Venus there would be, you know, good communication and, you know, things being clean and organized. Like, that sounds great, and that is the positive side of it. But the negative maybe is more of maybe an oversight kind of error. You know, when systems can get unhealthy, and that can cause a lot of problems and a lot of holdups and delays and frustrations. And even just thinking about the books aspect of these books, yeah, it's great that they're preserving this knowledge, but that kind of enslaves us to use AI, because if those books don't exist anymore, and only AI does, then we've kind of lost that knowledge to from one place to another. And we know that when it comes to resources, obviously with technology, you need certain resources to even be able to access technology. So that really limits that knowledge to certain people as well, that have that access, and for however long they do, if they have the resources to be able to access it. And that really makes me think of that Venus-Neptune opposition, because there is that potential of like illusionary energies and maybe getting lost. There's a bit of that lost energy, and that definitely makes me think of that there with the water usage with the AI centers and these books getting destroyed. So so yeah, that's interesting that did just come up there with the Tower and the Hermit card. But our next card we have here, the Spear 2, is clarified by the Two of Swords. So we've had the Two of Swords already. It was the first card that came out for the reading, and now it is the clarifier for the central card, that Heart of the Matter card. So with that Spear 2, which was all about like choices and organizations leading to achievements of desires, and also intuitive synthesis and drives. Now we have that Two of Swords to clarify. So that was all about the decision making, and it is actually making me think of all that stuff I was just saying about how basically it's to do with our choices, that kind of creates the future. So this is the Spear 2 is about the choices, and then the Two of Swords is actually about decision making, so, and decisions that are made. So wow, that's I have tried to preserve some books, so it's funny that the whole book thing did come up, but I currently do not have the financial resources. Over here we have a housing crisis. Like, there's not enough houses for people, and when books get old, often they go through, I've noticed, like a series, you know, you can get books at the library and then they'll have a sale, and because they even clear them out eventually. And then also in the charity shops, you'll often find a lot of books, and then they only keep them for so long as well. So they can go on to other places, obviously, but eventually a lot of them, I do believe, end up in the tip. Sometimes you can get secondhand bookshops and things like that, but it is a thing. And I, for many years, have kind of collected old books, and I don't mean your nice old, you know, beautiful covers and things like that, but mostly books that were a bit obscure that you wouldn't really see. And I really liked the ones that were to do with ancient myths and folk stories and all that kind of stuff, and lots of other topics too. But I have really been going through, for probably the last 10 years or so, a bit of a crisis with my book situation, because I have had to downsize many times due to moving. I've had to move a lot. I've had really insecure housing in my life, and also space. So not only having to move a lot, but not having a lot of room to store them. And I've even had a situation where I've had to store them in someone else's property, and they had a lot of cats, and the cats spray, and a lot of books I've had to get rid of because of that. Yeah, so in a way, I'm not against AI, you know, taking, I don't know, kind of preserving some knowledge, like, because I do know that obviously the actual book itself is limited to, like, a lot of these older books I had already, they were yellowing, and you can get mold grow on them, and mold causes a lot of ill health. So I've had to get rid of those kind of ones, and then just in general, like, paper doesn't last that long. I know hemp lasts longer, but they don't really make books out of hemp, at least anymore. Maybe they used to. So there is that sense that the books will one day just end up in landfill. And, you know, look, that's not, there's a lot of horrible things that will end up in landfill, like plastics and things that won't break down for really long periods of time. So at the end of the day, you know, at least the books will just go back into the earth and, you know, compost down. But the knowledge, it's more about what's written on them, isn't it? Preserving that. So yeah, I can see like a double-edged sword there with the AI. So for the Stone 8 card here, we have the 7 of Wheels. So the Stone 8 was all about studying something and mastering your skills. It could have been potentially like an apprenticeship or some kind of even on the job, like a work situation where you are also learning, you know, through like we were saying, apprenticeship, trade, something like that. And then here it's got the 7 of Wheels. So this is all about, you know, what it is you're investing in basically, and being aware of, you know, future potentials, but also past decisions that have come to fruition and that have done well. And so try to use those situations as learning opportunities going forward with this new learning period. Then for the Arthur card, which was that like High Priest, Emperor kind of energy here, we have the Star. So the Star is a really positive card. And to clarify the Arthur card, I see it as a really beneficial card. Definitely here, the Arthur card was very much about, you know, the patriarchal energies and the father and the masculine. And the Star is all about hopes and wishes. And definitely I hope that the masculine energy in the world heals and becomes that more wholesome spiritual energy. And I'm not saying that it isn't, because I'm sure there's a lot of great masculine out there, you know. But we also need that in our leadership as well. And it can be lacking, I think, unfortunately, just to do with the nature of power, attracting maybe not the best characters. It's a tricky one. But yeah, I definitely am really hoping and wishing for, obviously, you know, good leaders for our nations. Then for the Spear Queen, we have the 8 of Wheels. Okay, so we have the 8 of Wheels twice in this spread. So definitely this is linking a time of some kind of learning, some kind of apprenticeship or, you know, mastery going on here. And then for the Stone 4, which is our last card here, we have the 8 of Wands. So Stone 4 was all about the material resources, but it was also about them not really being shared. So they were being hoarded, which is quite concerning if people in power are doing that, which it does seem like is going on. And I don't really want to name names, but, you know, there are massive organizations out there. I don't want to say the name of them in case, I don't know, like, I don't think I would get any trouble, for saying it, but like, for example, BlackRock, is it Palantir? There's some of these organizations out there that are corporations, sorry, they're not organizations, they're corporations, and they are doing crazy stuff because they're so wealthy that they kind of can. And definitely hoarding resources seems to be one of them. Having the 8 of Wands here, though, is concerning because I'm not sure if it's saying they are getting a lot of energy, which obviously I'm not sure if that's a good thing, or if maybe them doing that is gathering a lot of energy. So hopefully it's more that people are realizing that, you know, there's these new kind of techno elite circles, and I don't even know how new they are. Maybe they're not even that new, but we are going into like a new age, a new earth. And, you know, every generation goes through massive changes and upheavals, but we are going through one now as well. And obviously I feel like these nodal points right now with the Leo and the Aquarius are really bringing these energies to the forefront as well here. The next deck that I have for you is the Mantegna Tarot. And on the bottom of the deck, we have Vital Functions, Cosmico. Wow, so the meaning of Cosmico is, yeah, vital functions, rebirth, view the world with new eyes. So that is interesting because I was talking about, like, you know, the new age and all that kind of stuff. So the crowning card is Terpsichore. I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering the names. So Terpsichore, which so maybe an Italian word. So Terpsichore stands for nimbleness, dance with everyone to understand them better. Okay, that's interesting. And that's for this Taliesin with the 3 of Wands. Wow, that kind of does resonate though. Like I was saying about if everyone keeps their stories and tells their stories, we can kind of understand each other a little bit better, kind of thing. Dance with everyone to understand them better. And then the central card here is astrology or astrologia. So the meaning of this card is fatalism, understand the cycles which condition certain events. So I have been talking a little bit about that, these things, this reading, but wow, that is what it's telling us to focus on right now. And I do feel like astrology is that magical tool where we can understand things, you know, on different levels. And it's not that you need to attach yourself to that information and like make it a part of you or anything like that. And then the base card here is polymnia. So polymnia stands for aesthetics. Discover the inner beauty of things. Wow. Discover the inner beauty of things. That's a lovely message. Okay, the next cards I have for you are the past life oracle cards. And on the bottom of the deck, we have the Father card. So there could be really something significant right now to do with your father, or, you know, a father if you have children, their father, a father in your life. There's like shadow energies here. And then the crowning card, we have knighthood, which is interesting because we had that Arthurian deck and it was talking about Arthur and the knighthood, and especially talking about how when Arthur got older, the knights ended up becoming more important. So that's interesting as well. And then the central card we have is farm. And obviously farms are very integral to every society. Without food, you really can't do anything. So very important. That's with astrology. And that was all about understanding things. And oh my goodness, then we have imprisonment or slavery. So this was for the polymnia. Imprisonment or slavery. Yeah, so this is definitely energies that obviously is concerning. I understand that those things occur today. In fact, in more numbers than ever, because we have more people on the planet than ever. And that slavery, I'm not sure how many millions, multi-millions of people would be enslaved today. And that would mean in different kinds of categories. I don't understand all the specifics to do with slavery. Like I know, for example, just something like indentured servitude or something. But then there is like wage slavery. There's, you know, sexual slavery. There's, you know, trafficking. There's all these different things that go on. And obviously it's massive, and it's definitely something that obviously seems to be going on at all levels, and is very concerning. I'm not sure why that's come up here on the base, but it is very concerning going forward with the powers that be, because there are obviously things that have happened, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of I'm not sure how much, you know, real justice has really gone on here, especially with these people in powerful positions that have abused their power, but that's all over, not just them as well. And these cards are linked to like past life energies. So potentially, if you are listening to this reading, I'm guessing that you were guided here for a reason, and that you're listening this far into the reading for a reason as well. So this could also be talking about your past lives or a past life. So we have three very quite different situations here: knighthood, farm, and also imprisonment or slavery. And obviously we still have people in prison to this day too. And also knighthoods don't exist in that sense that they did, I don't believe. Maybe in some places. But obviously farms are everywhere. So it could be resonant for now, but it could also be past life, past lives, that kind of energy. And then the next deck that I have for you is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. And on the bottom of the deck, we have the card Patience, which is the card for Jupiter in Virgo, which is quite interesting because we do currently have, we have Jupiter in Cancer, but we have that Venus in Virgo, and also that Jupiter and Venus are sextiling as well. So there is a connection there as well. And it says events acting as a secretary for a social or self-help group, reorganizing the methods and systems of an organization, spending time helping someone with a learning difficulty. So these are some of the energies here that could be linked in here. So that's the shadow energy of the deck. The crowning card is the Moon in Cancer, which is the card for friendship, which is interesting. So it's linked to situations such as important family gatherings and celebrations of anniversaries, inheritances of heirlooms, genealogy, distant relations, moving house, sharing a friend or family member's problems. So, and that is linked to the knighthood. That's the crowning card there, linked to the knighthood. So some kind of friendship that's, I mean, Arthur did have his knights, and I guess really they were like friends in a sense for him as well, you know, comrades. The central card we have is Escape, which is Mars in Pisces. It's quite interesting because we did have, I mean, it wasn't the last card and it's not the card this is clarifying for, but we do have that card of imprisonment or slavery. So escape. So the energies around escape, Mars in Pisces, is using great energy to extract oneself from a tricky situation, working extremely hard for the benefit of others, shutting one's eyes to the reality of a situation. So this is linked to the farm. So this is really interesting to me because obviously I have known some farmers, interesting people, and obviously important, like I said. You know, we all need to eat. And it is tricky for them. And they work hard. And I know in Australia things aren't going great. I'm not sure, you know, where you're from. And there's always complications in all industries. But, you know, when it's such an important industry, it's really tricky. And I think because it has this card too, with this imprisonment and slavery, I really kind of feel it, because these farmers, you know, I think they have okay lives, but they are bound to their farm. They basically never have a holiday. They never get, because they can't. They have, you know, they are like the head of the farm. It's really important that they see to everything that's going on, you know. Maybe it is a little bit different now. I know that I have heard that some farmers are using like drones and things like that, which I don't know if that would mean they could go on holiday or not. It might just mean that they might not have as much, like they might be able to send a drone out to check on their animals or something, rather than actually have to physically go out there. It might not mean that they're free to go and do something else, or they are, but not to go away. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. We have this escape energy with the farm. And obviously in the future as well with AI, I don't know how far it's going to go. If it's going to get involved in food production at all, or... Because I was talking about AI before a lot. So, and obviously because not only are the farmers working hard, it's also the workers. And there is situations where I have even heard, you know, in Australia that people are saying that it is basically not good. People working, you know, on working visas, I think. And I think some like illegals and things like that. And they're really not working in great conditions, and they're not getting that much money, and they stay in terrible accommodation for a lot of money. And yeah, so it's kind of like a imprisonment or slavery, really. And that's not just in this country. I'm sure it goes on everywhere. But yeah, the next card we have is, okay, we have originality. So this is your Mercury in Aquarius. Okay, this is for the base energies. So originality. So wow, and this is to do with this imprisonment or slavery. I mean, it's making me think, you know, that we need some kind of, I guess, originality. But here it's got, to me, this is like the inventor, or, you know, there's a machine here. And it's through machines that we have allowed a lot of our time to be spent elsewhere, like not on... Like say, for example, a washing machine washing your clothes, or a dishwasher, not that I have one, but, you know, different machines, a car, you know, a train, you know, all these different machines have kind of made our lives easier. I get that the environmental impact's not great, but it really is through that inventiveness that we can free ourselves on some level. So thinking about the imprisonment or slavery with this originality is an interesting combination here. So it's linked to a new approach, an idea that necessitates drastic change, an unusual research result, a shock announcement, and an invention or innovation. Innovation, that's it. Yes, invention and innovation. Yes. So hopefully that is on the horizon. You know, things will be better, especially in regards to this as well. Because, I mean, there are also situations, like I was saying, with, you know, just wage slavery, where people are working, you know, men and women, and they can't even look after their families. They're working so much and they can barely afford to live. You know, it's bad. It's not good. But yeah, there's all different forms of, you know, imprisonment, slavery, and obviously with the current financial system that we're in, we're basically all enslaved to it. So I do see this Uranus in Taurus being a time where there will be some serious innovations in the financial system. And hopefully that is for, you know, for the better. So the next cards I have, which is actually the last deck that I have. So the last deck that I have for you is the Gilded Lenormand, Gilded Reverie Lenormand. And on the bottom of the deck, we have the Sun card, which I do find quite appropriate considering we do have currently the Sun transiting True Sky Leo. So, you know, those solar energies are really quite prominent at the moment. Even though we didn't get the Sun card in the major spread here, we did get it in the Lenormand. So there you go. And the Sun in the Lenormand is similar to the Sun in the Tarot. So it's linked to like joy and success and celebration and things like that. And so that is the shadow energy underlying the reading there, which is interesting because we did also get that Father card with the past life deck. We got the Jupiter in Virgo, the Patience, and we got the Cosmico, the Stone 3, and the Six of Swords for the other shadow cards. For the crowning card, however, we got the Tower from the Lenormand. So the Tower is normally linked to something big. And that can be like organizations, institutions, you know, corporations. So these big things. And then here we have it linked with friendship, which is an interesting combination. So then we have, oh my goodness, the middle central card, we have the Book. Which is interesting, and it even has like this almost, you know, like a clock device on the front with the zodiac. Fascinating. Okay, so this is interesting just because I was talking about earlier with the AI, and then I've heard that some of these factories are buying up all these old books and they're destroying them to, you know, get the AI readers to read them and learn the information of them, but they're actually destroying all this. So it's just interesting. I was talking about that, and now we have the Book, and this is linked with the escape here. I mean, books can be used as an escape. That is true too. But the Book normally says that there's something that you don't know yet as well. There's often a bit of a mystery with the Book. And then you have, oh my goodness, we've got the Birds. So the Birds are often linked to gossip. And here this is with that originality, with that Mercury in Aquarius. I can't really see someone like a Mercury Aquarius being particularly gossipy. Maybe they're going to gossip about ideas though. Or, you know, like that was that card of inventions and innovations and things like that. So... but that is a good point. Even when it comes to AI, does AI gossip? Does AI gossip about people? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it would probably be a bit dangerous if it did. So we've got the gossip, we've got the Book, we've got the Tower, and then we've got the underlying energy of the Sun. So obviously the Sun is a very positive card. So it does dispel, or, you know, kind of mitigate the more negative cards. And we've only really got the Birds here that's, you know, more negative. The Book with the Birds would suggest that there's something that either you're learning, maybe from some kind of gossip situation, or someone talking about something and that leads you on to further knowledge. There's something that's been uncovered here. And then also with the Tower, the Book with the Tower is kind of learning about, you know, organizations and institutions and all these things. And then having the Sun as well. Obviously the Sun can bring knowledge too, but it's more of like an illumination of knowledge. And even onto that Tower. So the Sun obviously illuminates the Tower for what it is. as well. So there's some of that dark energy that's being kind of dispersed here, which is, it is a nice way to end the reading, because this is for the total solar eclipse in True Sky Leo, and it is, excuse me, it is for the South Node. So if this reading resonated in any way for you, I doubt that the whole thing would have, because it is a general reading. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, or you got something out of it, or you just found it entertaining, if you could like, comment, and or subscribe to my channel, that would be amazing. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back as well. And also thank you for all your lovely likes, comments, and subscribes. I really appreciate the growth that this channel has been experiencing. And take care of yourselves over this eclipse period. So some say that the eclipse period does last for 6 months, some say 12. Some even say just for those couple of weeks that you're kind of in between the eclipses, and then others say it's the weeks either side as well. However, I also understand too that eclipses do have a 19-year cycle as well. So 19 years ago, we would have had this same kind of eclipse around this same area of the zodiac. In True Sky Leo, there would have been a eclipse with the south nodes. So it's like a returning every 19 years. And then at the halfway point, so at that 9.5 years, I guess, is like the opposition of that specific eclipse. So it's quite interesting learning more about the different, I think it's the Saros cycles, which I think it's Bernadette Brady in her book talks about the different cycles with the eclipses. So it's worth looking into. And I do think this cycle is particularly powerful at the moment because of all the other transits and aspects that are occurring. And I do feel like, you know, these times that we're in, obviously I think most people can feel it as well, but they are very really significant times. So take care of yourself and your loved ones, and thank you for watching. Okay, bye.